Hello. Welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today's video I am going to give you a comparison of the Color Cube versus the Palette Scout. And I've had both of these for a while. I've been using them for quite a while. Full disclosure, I've had the Color Cube for longer and I bought it myself. The Zolly Palette Scout was gifted to me by request. And so this is a little bit newer to me, but I will give you my honest opinion of both of these because I really think that they are pretty different. So if you've been wondering to yourself which one's better, maybe you're in the market for something to help you with your color choices and you're wondering which product might be best suited for your needs, I hope that you find that this video is informative. Before I give you my thoughts, on both of these products. If you're new to them, let me first get everybody caught up so that we know what we're talking about, and I'll give an overview of each of these. The Color Cube is put out by Sarah Renee Clark, and it actually started as a digital PDF. There's actually a volume 1 and a volume 2. I happen to pull out volume 2 here, but I do have both. I bought the digital version first, and then I got the physical version after when it became available. Because I've had the digital version since before she started putting out the physical product. Now, what's nice about the physical product is that it's beautifully printed. It's on really nice, cardstock, and the colors are just gorgeous. And it's kind of fun to just maybe randomly pick out color palettes to craft. And so there are, as I mentioned, two volumes. So there are 2 boxes. In total, there are 500 palettes. Box 1 has 1 through 250, which all of them are uniquely identified by a number here. Box 2 is 251 to 500. And similarly, the PDF files are structured the same way. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2. And the PDF is really great because it's searchable, it's clickable, it's interactive. So you can actually browse by different ways, by color, by keyword, or by collection. And just so that you can see, I'll bring up the exact same card here, 327, so that you can see that it is indeed identical. So I'll talk a little bit more about the digital versus the physical, and do you just need one or the other? Should you get both? But here you can see 327, and the palette is the same. You'll see this is actually, I guess, laid out to be printed on 8.5 by 11 with additional resources at the bottom here for swatching. And also, there's even, if you are a digital artist, you have hex codes, RGB values, and CMYK values for each of the colors in the palette, which I think is really nice. If you flip to the back of the physical card, you have just the hex code here. But it is nice that the color goes clear off the edge, so that if you wanted to color match this to maybe some cardstock in your stash or maybe some pattern papers, etc., then you have the option to do that, and you can put this right up against whatever it is you're trying to color match. I think that's really nice because sometimes when you see like a white border or black border around things, it can present a little bit of an optical illusion. So if something was completely bordered in white, that might actually tend to make it look a little bit lighter, versus if it was bordered in black, it actually might make it look a little bit darker. So this does come in both formats, the digital format as well as the physical format. And of course you can get bundled offers where you can get it all, and you can get all the things. And then besides that, there's even more resources available that help you to do color matching. So, for example, I've got the digital companion catalog for Ohuhu alcohol brush markers. And this is really nice because for each of the palettes, it actually gives you the marker number, the Ohuhu marker number, which I think is really awesome as a resource, because then if I'm trying to color something, and I'm just trying to find like all the things, all the media supplies to craft that palette, I feel like, you know, there's lots of resources to help me do that. And they have companion guides for a variety of different brand. I mean, if they have Ohuhu, they've got Copics. I think they have color pencil brands like Prismacolor um, and the Faber-Castell polychromos. Don't quote me on that, but I imagine that all of that is available. I don't have all of them, but I find that the breadth of resources available to you with the color catalog and the color cube is pretty deep. Especially since Sarah Renee Clark, she's an amazing colorist. She does a lot of product reviews on various different markers, color pencils, and media supplies. And so she's quite well versed in all of those things. And she does a lot of research and makes all of that available. Her channel is really fabulous. So definitely check her out. Now, the Zolly Palette Scout is different. It is, I feel like the color cube is a really fabulous resource for inspiration. I find that the Palette Scout, I would actually identify this more like a tool for building your own color palettes and doing it with confidence, even if you don't necessarily know everything behind all of the color theory behind why it works. So what do you get with the Palette Scout? There are 113 cards, and if you want to look size comparison wise, it's more narrow, but it's a little bit taller. And in terms of footprint, the Palette Scout is pretty small. So not quite as large as the color cube. And what you get is there's an instruction booklet that tells you how to use it. And I do have a first look video and various videos where I've used this in my card making. But my first look video actually show how I like to use it. It only slightly differs a little bit to you know, it's not conflicting with how they recommend that you use it, but I feel like I've found a way to just use it more easily in my opinion. And so definitely check out my first look video if you are more interested in how to use this as a tool. But let me give you an overview of what's in it. So there are some challenge cards. This is just ideas for how you can kind of break out of your color rut and create different palettes. The remainder of the cards here are the core of the tool. So it starts with a reference card. So this basically shows you all of the unique hues or different colors that are in this deck. And it's really clever and well designed so that you can easily put this in alphabetical order, which then reorders it into the rainbow order for you, if that's something that's important to you. I do like to keep it in rainbow order, so I think that was really clever how they've designed that. So that's a reference card. Now, the rest of the cards are what you would use to actually create some fun color palettes yourself. And this first set of cards is all of, there's one card for each hue, for each unique color. And what you'll find is that, take for instance ocean, which I think would be the closest approximation to teal. This is the ocean card, which shows the different values from light to dark, so shades of the pure color and then tints of the pure color, as well as the tones, so the more muted version of all of these colors. So that gives you the variety of colors that are within this hue, just slightly modified, whether you're adding white to it or you're adding gray. Now, the equivalent of that would be on the color cube. If you flip to the back, you have something very similar here, where it's just more range to this particular color, and it's a little bit harder to tell if any of these have been tinted, shaded, or toned down, but effectively it kind of gives you something very similar, just so that it can expand your use of this particular color in your palette. But where this actually comes in handy is when you flip to the back, you can see the various different color combinations that you can build that are rooted in color theory. So these are very standard terms for if you've ever seen somebody use, or you have the color wheel, it's built off of that, but it doesn't require you to understand color theory or to use your color wheel. You just need to look for those colors and then build your palette from there. So what do I mean when I say look for those colors? Well, the way that I use this is I just look for that shape and that color, and then I pull out those cards. So let's say we want to make a complementary color palette. I'm looking for the ocean color, which is sort of a teal circle, and then I'm looking for maybe like a reddish orange circle. So I just flip here, and then here's my reddish orange circles, and if I look at everything else that's kind of red, none of the other ones are circles. So flame is what I'll use there, and then ocean is the color that I want to build my palette around. So of course I'll need that set of cards. So for each hue, there's 5 cards that represent the 5 levels of intensity, but it's actually really 10 colors, because you flip to the back and you get that. Now what I like about these is that it's the whole card, so it's really nice to get such a large swatch of the color, and then you can really play with these 10 cards to make a complementary color palette, and you can flip from back to front and mix and match. And when you get your palette scout, or if you watch my first look video, there's tips for how to build your palette. But let's just say we randomly pick some, and then maybe we randomly flip 1 or 2 over so that we have the muted version, and there we have it, a color palette that that we can use. And what's nice about this is, because it's the full color, you could even play with this a little bit, just to say, okay, what happens if I use like a lot of this color, maybe just a smidge of that color, and then an even smaller smidge of this darkest color? You can kind of sort of just experiment with, how does my card look if I'm using a lot of one color versus just a little bit of another color, because you can kind of cover it up and explore the weight, because you could have just a smidge of that, or you could have a lot of that color, and it would probably change the look of your card. And so I kind of find it fun to just do that blocking exercise too. Let's say I want to use a lot of that and just a little bit of these. How does that change the look of my card? So it's kind of fun to just play with the cards and having them physically in hand, and still have like that freedom, the flexibility, but also the confidence of making your own color palette. So that's an overview of the palette scout. So what are my thoughts on the two, and how do I use them in my crafting. So I wanted to wait a period of time before doing this review, because you know how when you get something new, or at least this is true for me, when I get something new, I'm very excited to use it, and I'll use it a bunch, and then the novelty kind of wears off, and I find myself probably not using it as much over time. And that's why I wanted to give myself plenty of time to really just see if, how much am I still using the Palette Scout, because I've had the Color Cube in my craft room for a lot longer than the Palette Scout. So I can confidently tell you, how much or how little I use the Color Cube. But I wanted to let the novelty of the Palette Scout wear off a little bit to see if it's still something that I reach for. And also, full disclosure, I keep both of them right in front of me. So where they are in my craft room is within arm's reach in front of me, so I can equally see them both. And that might help you to kind of understand the context of my concluding thoughts. I find myself, just if you're looking for a bottom line, I find myself reaching for the Palette Scout more often when I do my day-to-day crafting than I do the Color Cube. I find that the Color Cube is most useful because of the combination of the digital version and the physical version. When I only had the digital version, I just wasn't thinking about using it. In fact, I think I used it a couple times and then the novelty wore off and I didn't use it for like a year. And then the physical Color Cube came out and I was resisting it because I didn't want to get like yet another thing. But it dawned on me, well, maybe if I actually get the physical version, the digital resources will become more useful to me and I'll actually use it, and it will actually help me discover and use new color palettes. And that has certainly been the case. I definitely use it more now that I have the physical version because it sits right in front of me and I'm reminded that I have this as a resource. But the way that I use this, it's more for inspiration to craft with and less as a tool that I would use in my crafting, if that makes sense. So for example, I built the whole This or That color game, which is a game that we play on Crafty Fun with Friends, my weekly Saturday live stream. And I just think it's really fun to break out of your comfort zone when it comes to color and just craft something at random with a random color combination. And so for inspiration, I find these cards really fun to craft to because I just really like the photo. I think having a photo inspiration is really nice. It's like kind of like having a mood board. And I like having the physical card and having the colors run off the edge because then I can color match to things. So the physical product I find really nice. When I am crafting with a purpose and I say have a color that I want or need to use because of a theme of card that I am trying to make, I find the PDF immensely easier to search. So for example, what I use most often is searching by color because I might have like an initial color that I want to use on my card. And let's say, I want to use dark purple. Here I can just click on it, and because the PDF is interactive, I can actually just see all of the different dark purple color palettes and then just click on the one that I want to use. And I can see them all, and so that way I can kind of compare them and easily pick between them. But if you wanted to say search by keyword, you could also do that. And let's say, this is based off of the phrases that you can use that are sort of, I think, in line more with the photo inspiration. So, retro, for example, this is what comes up for your retro. And then again, you can kind of see them all at a glance. Pick the one that kind of speaks to you best, and then click on it and get the exact palette. So I find that really a lot easier to do. But then when I actually sit down to go craft, I don't like having my phone in front of me because the phone screen will go to sleep. And then, if I need to look at the palette again, I have to tap on it. And maybe I'm using something like some media supplies and my fingers are dirty and I don't want to tap on my screen. So that's why having the physical cards is really nice, because then I can do what I need to search and find the palette that I want to use from my phone. But then when I actually go to craft, I actually will pull out the physical card. So we just found this one. So then I'll pull that out and I'll have this sitting right on my desk as inspiration and as a reference so that I can go back and, find the colors that I want. So I feel like having both makes it more useful for me as a tool to craft with. If I just had the physical one, I think it would still be a little bit of a novelty and it wouldn't really be a useful tool. When I just had the digital version, like I said, I used it a lot to begin with, but then I didn't use it for like a year and a half at all. I find it's easy to forget that you have it as a resource. It's handy that you can keep it on your phone and you'll always have access to it. That was my rationale for buying it. And indeed that is true, but for me, I like having the physical one because I can see it. I'm reminded that I have it as a tool, as a resource. And then I, in practice, will start by pulling up the digital PDF, finding the palette, and then pulling out the physical card. So this has only been useful as a tool for me in my crafting when I use them both together. For fun, for inspiration, for a novelty, and for my this or that color game, I do use the physical version, and it's just nice to have a bit of fun. Now, the Palette Scout, I would squarely say, is a tool that I find immensely valuable in my crafting because I am not one who has internalized color theory, and I'm not great with using the color wheel. So a lot of the things that this fundamentally is built on is your standard color wheel. So you can see complement, split complement, triadic, analogous. I mean, you can use your color wheel to build up and sort of pick a color palette. And this has the various different tints of a color. And there's more complicated color wheels than this. They come in a large, like you can see I have these as tools, as resources. But again, you can kind of see if you want to build your color palette off of teal, just follow these lines and you can get the triadic, you can get the split complement, you can get the complement. Here are various different tints and shades of that color. And if you flip to the back, I mean, you can even get color mixing guide. So what happens if you take red and you add blue to it, what color do you get? So you can kind of see that, yeah, this is such a compact tool and resource to have, but do I use it? No. There's something just a lot for me easier to wrap my head around without really having to understand color theory and having something physical to really play with and then reference once I've built my palette. So, there's not a lot to this. It's such a compact little tool, especially compared to the color cube. So you can kind of see the footprint of the color cube versus the footprint of the palette scout. This is pretty compact, and you can build so many different color combinations, pretty much like an infinite number. Well, maybe not infinite, but quite a lot, because of all of the choices and the options available to you. Because for each color hue, you have 10 different colors that you can pick from when you're building your palette, and then you can pick 5 different types of color combinations, and it's all rooted in color theory. So while there's tips and tricks for how to build a really beautiful palette, if you're following those color combinations, I don't think you can really go wrong. I mean, some combinations, depending on whether you're picking something that's a dark shade or a lighter tint, or if you're picking some of the more muted tones, maybe some color combinations might look a little bit more compelling than others. But at the end of the day, I think if you're following these combinations, because they're rooted in color theory, it's gonna look good. And that's what I really enjoy about using this as a tool, because it does help you to really pick some color combinations with confidence, but without really having to understand why it works. You just kind of need to follow the colors and the shapes, and then you have so much like freedom and flexibility to kind of mix and match and flip the cards over, and then decide how much or how little of each color you want to use. It's quite a lot of fun. But now that I've had this in my craft room, I find that I use it quite a lot when I sit down to start crafting. And the reason is because when I craft, I'm often crafting with a purpose, meaning I do a lot of design team projects. And so the theme of what I'm using often informs the colors that I might like to choose, or maybe some even the products that I'm using. If I plan to use pattern paper, for example, there's already some colors that maybe I want to be guided by and then build a palette around. And so I find it a lot more useful to have something like the Palette Scout, where I can start with a color, and instead of the handful of choices that I would get even on the digital version of the color cube, right? So if we browse by color, sky blue, there's only maybe a dozen or so different color palettes there. But if I pick out, a sky bluish color from the Palette Scout, I can create my own palette, and I can create more than a dozen for sure. And so it gives you, I feel like, a more expansive range of color palettes, and they are by your own creation. And so you can actually pick it exactly to your taste. And I love that. But it gives you sort of a framework to create those color combinations, because if you're following the guide, it's still, as I said, rooted in color theory. So it's gonna look good almost universally, because there's a lot of reasons why various color palettes look appealing. And while everybody, it's still subjective, and so some people might like or dislike a specific color palette, there's some universal appeal to those very specific color ways to combine color. So that's one of the things that I feel is I'm really grateful, that Zali gave me the Palette Scout, because I find it to be a very valuable tool, not just like a resource inspiration, but I find it to be valuable as a tool, just like, my die cutting machine, my stamp positioning platform. Those are tools that I find really valuable in my craft room, and I would put this among them as a very valuable tool in my craft room. So those are my thoughts on the color cube and the palette scout. Which one is right for you? That's something you'll have to decide for yourself in terms of what kind of crafter you are and what you might benefit from if between these two resources, because I do think that they are fundamentally pretty different. I also want to mention that the color cube does have a lot of digital resources if you're looking to color match to various different media supplies, like your Copic alcohol markers, Ohuhu alcohol markers, color pencils like your Prismacolor pencils, and maybe polychromos. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that most major brands, there's good digital resources for color matching. And on the digital color catalog PDF files, you saw that there were digital codes as well. So if you're a digital artist, then you have RGB values, CMYK values, and hex codes. So really great, the depth of the resources available to you to do color matching. So in that way, I do feel like the breadth of what's available for how to actually use this in a more practical way is very expansive. And Sarah Renee Clark she's a fantastic colorist, but she has done the hard work of really researching, exploring, testing a wide variety of media supplies. You can check out her channel for comparison videos on various different media supplies like alcohol markers. I mean, she's tested them all, and she's given us her opinion on how they perform. And so it's really she's got a really fabulous channel that I definitely encourage you to check out. Now the folks at Zolly and the Palette Scout, I think they're a little bit newer, and they built this because they actually sell and have a lot of softcraft products. And so this they do have some digital resources, and they're probably starting to build out a deeper catalog of more resources and color matching. Right now, their color matching resources, I think, are a little bit more tailored towards your soft crafts, so your threads and your fabrics and whatnot. But give them time, and I'm sure with customer feedback, if that's something that you all are interested in, I'm sure they will build out that library as well. And I also want to share, just for to be complete, but also to be fair, Zolly does have a color matching guide that you can get. Now here's the thing, this is for Ohuhu alcohol markers, but I'll be honest, I believe this is for just their regular alcohol markers, not their brush markers, which most colorists do prefer brush markers. And I don't know why Ohuhu does this, but their color naming scheme is different between the two lines. And as well, the Palette Scout does, or Zolly I should say, does put out pre-made palettes. And so these are digital resources that you can get if you're looking just for some quick pre-made palettes that you can craft. I find that this is a little bit less inspiring than how the palettes are presented on the color cube. So I really like that the color cube has that gorgeous photo inspiration. But I feel like what they're trying to achieve with this is to also give you an idea for like how much or how little to use of each of these colors. And so I feel that's why they've represented it in these shapes of various size. And so it's just another fun way to kind of look at color. But those are available as other kind of digital resources. You can get them, with both of these. You can kind of, get the resources you're most interested in, whether it's the digitals or the physical products. And Zolly does also have online courses that teach you how to use this, teach you a little bit more about the color theory behind why this works. And I did watch all of their 101 on color, and it's a great resource. But truthfully, I have not really internalized any of that. I'll be honest. I just go by the colors and the shapes, and then I have a good time playing with the physical cards and creating my own color palettes. And I've been surprised because sometimes I'll create two palettes, and I'll just put two versions of a card out there, and a lot of times people have chosen the version that I didn't quite think would be my first choice if I were to pick a color palette. And so I'm learning a lot. I'm building more confidence in, picking and choosing my color palettes, but I still use this as a tool. So I haven't really used this for long enough where I've internalized all of those things and I can now create my own color palettes without playing with the cards. Maybe one day I'll get there. I don't know. But for now, I'm really enjoying using this as a tool. And when I sit down to craft and I want to, pick some new to me color combinations, this is the one I reach for, to be quite honest, because it's just more accessible. It achieves what I am looking to achieve, and it's easier to use versus the combination of the digital PDFs and the physical cards. With I could achieve probably a very similar thing, but with the color cube, but I would need the combination of both my phone and the digital version as well as the physical version, whereas I could just pick up this cute little thing and play with the cards a little bit and then get on my way crafting. So for how I craft, for my uses, I definitely find this to be a more useful tool. And for novelty, for fun, I find this more inspiring to craft with because the palettes are gorgeous, but you have that beautiful photo inspiration. And as well, the depth of resources for color matching, I feel, are more expansive with the color cube. So I have to say, I don't think these are apples to apples products. If you had them both, I think you would find use for both of them. However, bottom line, if I had to just pick one that I felt I use more on a day-to-day basis, I would say the Palette Scout is my choice. So I'm going to leave links to everything in the description box below. They will be affiliate links. So if you shop my links, I might earn a small commission, but that comes at no cost to you. And I'm immensely grateful for everybody who does use my affiliate links, especially some folks have been so kind to actually ask me in advance when they know they're about to shop if I have an affiliate link I can share with them. And I so greatly appreciate that because it really, it may not always be like a large amount of commission, but it's very meaningful to me to have your support in this way. And so thank you so much. I can't really express that enough. So I hope that this video has been valuable to you. If you have questions, please do drop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want to learn more yourself, please visit Zolly's YouTube channel, visit Sarah Renee Clark's YouTube channel, or just click on the product links in the description box below and you can read more about both of these. Thanks again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.